Happy Tuesday. Hey, welcome back to Our Healer, Our Protector with Ryan Reichert and Lisa
Sander.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's great to be back. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa because I need to find my motivation. And I know she's going to take us to that level that'll help me get there.
Okay, so here's my shot at this. Well, to everyone who's listening, let's find your drive. Let's find Ryan's drive. I'll be your cheerleader. Let's go, people. It's Tuesday. Hopefully it's in the afternoon. You're listening to this and you only got 3 days left for some of you. And then some of us, we have no days off. And that's okay, depending on what you do.
No days off.
No days off. There's a couple of different things we want to talk about that hits a lot of people. And one of them's anxiety. Anxiety, I think everybody has a little bit of it. I don't think there's a person out there that doesn't have some anxiety. What do you do with that anxiety? How do you handle it? I have some ideas. And all of you are going to be like, duh, Lisa, but I'm going to say them anyways. Exercise, people, exercise. Even if it is simple as going out and walking the dog around the block. Get motivated, take one step at a time. Anxiety. What is another thing? We've talked about this in our last podcast. Journal. Do you know what journaling can do? It can flood all your thoughts forward, and then you write them down and you're like, oh my gosh, like that feels so much better letting that out. Or call a friend or call a coach like Ryan or I. We'll be there for you and we'll help you through that anxiety. You need to think about your strengths in life to help you get through anxiety. What are the good things you are good at? So if your anxiety is talking in front of a crowd or talking on a podcast, and let's say you had to do it for a day, I want you to dive deep inside of you and I want you to find your strengths and how to explore them. Like, are your strengths do you have artistic ability? Do you have kindness, love, self-control, forgiveness, patience, wisdom, modesty, humor, assertiveness, flexibility? There's an open-mindedness. In one of those, you are going to find your strengths, and that's what you utilize. You just center yourself, and you're like, I need to get through this anxious time in my life. You guys, I am myself in an anxious moment. I did something that I had to come to truths with, and wasn't out of, I don't know if it was out of laziness or I was already doing another job for someone and I wanted to make my life easier for somebody else. So I used some of their information to write another letter for somebody else. I intertwined the two. The person that I used was not happy that I used it for someone else also. And I felt horrible about that because they took the time to do it. Their anxiety is they're not going to stand out in front of other people, which, where am I getting at? It's perspective, right? So I have anxiety because I upset someone. So my strength is to be bold, tell the truth, and talk to that person. Some people don't do well with that. They rather text. I'm a person that rather talk.
I look at this and it's certainly something that perspective is always the case where, like, I acknowledge you're talking about letters of either referral or whatever that's going on in your business or job. And I would look at two sides of it. Yes, we all are greedy and we want. But the other side of it to look at is like, if you utilize someone's template, because I guarantee there's a template that someone wrote that you guys were all probably using previously, and use someone else's template with someone else's information, you commingle them together, just like anything else. You create a book, like, and go like, oh, let's go to references real quick. And I have, I don't know, 101, 102, 103, 100, so 5 pages of references. Like the person who you used, like as kind of like maybe the basis, they should be very proud. Yeah, they took their time to do it, but like think about it from that standpoint of like we all use people's things. Like nothing's original anymore. Everything came out of this book right here. I don't know if you can see it says the Holy Bible. So nothing's new. You didn't invent something new. You didn't come up with something new. And everyone has different ways of reacting to this. Some people are very passive. And so they're going to text message you all day long, hurting you with words because they can't vocalize it, because then you would have an immediate response to them. And I guess we started talking about anxiety, and anxiety is just fear of the unknown. And really, it's the fear of the
Absolutely.
future. And so to me, I want to read out of Matthew because I was like, well, where could we find something? And like I said, this book that I wrote talks about emergency numbers, and we've talked about them in the past, but I want to, when you worry, Matthew 6:19 through 34. So I'm not going to read all 19 through 34, but I'm going to pick and choose a few verses out of here. And let's go with 25 through 34. We're shortening it a little bit. And that is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't it life more than food, or your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing, yet Solomon in all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? So don't worry about these things, saying, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's troubles are enough for today. So, I mean, I get this way every day, like kind of thing. I don't have it all figured out when it comes to my anxiety and my worries, but I know if I at least get out of bed and walk me, like you've all heard me say, read this book that I just read out of, go work out and journal. Like by the time that happens, like the day's pretty good. Now it's been, I don't know, as we shoot this episode, many hours since like that's all happened. I've went to therapy, so I saw my therapist today. I've made 20 phone calls to, try to land the next speaking gig. Someone actually called me back right before we started filming this. So super excited about that. So perseverance and never giving up is where now, like all that, you can see me, right? Like I'm full of life again. And that's the ebb and flow when it comes to how we deal with life and all those anxieties of the unknown. And we just have to be patient. We have to be kind. And like it's just one of those things to understand that it all works out if we talk about it. So
I have another one, Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. So my anxiety, and even doing this podcast, my anxiousness is being perfect, which actually it's not just stemming from doing this podcast or not being perfect in other people's eyes or doing something wrong, because I would never want to hurt somebody or take something away from somebody that they've worked so hard to do. I grew up, my root cause is from my childhood and being sensitive and having perfection. So because I get anxious of people talking about me, and then you're like, oh my God, Lisa, you're on a podcast. And I have to pray to God, having the strength to be on a podcast and stepping outside of my box, because we are going to have people that write in stuff and won't be happy about everything or ask what our credentials are or where we think we come off right being on here, right? Well, we're imperfect humans, but I do know where my heart was and what I was trying to do wasn't to hurt anyone. And now my anxiousness is like, oh my gosh, is someone going to tell a bunch of people and they're going to look bad upon me that I did that? I think that's where my anxiety comes, but that's my own fear of past life when people haven't been happy with me. And I have to get over that. So my strengths are being honest and truthful and being able to be self-aware and say, I'm sorry. My strengths are to learn a lesson and do better next time. And that's what I'm going to learn from this is to do better next time. And this is all growing. And oh my gosh, if any young ones are out there listening in their 20s or even early 30s, I mean, any age, right? But if you can start early and not have these aha moments when you are older, which you're going to have them, we're going to have aha moments our whole life. But if you can start early and be truthful, be honest, say I'm sorry and take accountability, but don't be one of those people that just say I'm sorry and then you repeat it. That is one thing people in the healthcare field, and I'm sure there's other fields, but I'm just talking for where I come from. There's many lessons learned. As a nurse, you're a teacher, you are a leader, you have all these different hats that you need to wear. And you learn how to put on different hats at different times. And right now, I just have to pray to God and ask this person for forgiveness, and it will all work out. And the awesome thing about this lesson, too, is good can be spread to other people, too. Like if you are opened up and be like, you know what, I can help one more person than just myself. Or if you can do that, like you're going to get more out of life. And everything works out. It really does. Waking up the next day is working out in life because there's people that don't wake up the next day. So if you get to wake up the next day, guess what? You're here and it's going to work out. Ryan, have I woken you up yet?
I was going to say, let's rewind a couple seconds. So
Okay.
I know it's in there. I can't find it, but I know it's in there because I wrote it. But there's two types of business: my business and not my business. So like when you were worried about what other people are saying about you and all these different things, like you just like for those listening out there, for those watching, just yeah, there's your business and not your business. It's just that. So, don't worry about what other people say about you. I mean, I woke up this morning to, someone, talking about my 5-minute morning reset, and they couldn't find it in their email. And so like they were writing about how it was such a scam. And, so maybe I woke up and, got out of bed and like probably didn't do what I preach. I probably got on my phone right away versus like getting ready for the day in such a way. And yeah, that bugged me, so I talked about that today a couple times. And you know what? Honestly, like it should bother me, but it should also be something like if you can't handle that kind of problem in your life, like why would you be able to handle anything bigger? Why would the good Lord give you any type of problem that's bigger than handling what somebody else says about you, saying that the product that you produce and use in your coaching techniques is a scam? It hurts, right? But like you have to acknowledge it, you have to accept it, and you have to move on from it because it's just one person. What do I always say? 30% love you, 30% hate you, and 40% don't give a shit. So like time to move
Yep.
on. Put them in that bucket of I don't think they hate you, but like, they're a 40% that doesn't matter. And so yeah, I'm good. Like I said, put me in the game. I totally get it. I know where you're coming from, Lise. It is that side of it where, you know, I just think about our kids today, and like if we're talking about a couple of people that are adults, gone through a few things, been in some careers a really long time. And yeah, now it's scary as we bark on new endeavors of different professions. But like a teenager or just an elementary kid, like nowadays, like, the amount of stuff that's thrown at them, and like, how can we, help our children not be so anxious because, of all the things that they see, how they're supposed to look, how they're supposed to act. And they're just being flooded with so much information,
Yeah, the pressure.
constant. And so, I mean, that's the thing, like the ability, I got an email last night talking about like screen time, and would you want to be, surveyed on the amount of screen time, that you have. And like, I was almost like, oh gosh, no, I don't even want to know what that is. Cause I'm sure that I'm on my phone, a handful hours a day, let alone behind the computer. And, what does that look like? And I know it's certainly what it looks like is like, watched a scary movie the other night for the first time in a long time, thinking like I'm all squared away. And sure enough, just like that, Freddy Krueger's back in my dreams, kind of thing. And then not good dreams. And so, like, those are the things that we can control. Like, we can control how much screen time our kids have. We can control the different sides of who we hang out with, who our kids hang out with, and so on and so forth. So, like, nothing's changed since we were on the playground hanging out with the kids that, you know, smoked, drank, and did drugs, before I guess I started doing them, kind of thing. And so it's one where, we'll say it over and over again. Show me your circles, I'll show you, where you're going to fall. The same thing goes with anxiety and, depression, and how that can relate to what Lisa started this episode off with, exercise, getting outside and actually seeing, like, the sun. And I acknowledge some people are going to say, well, I live in Pacific Northwest and this time of year, it rains 90% of the time. Well, get a fake light then, it's one of those things. These lights for podcasts, it basically kind of creates the sun in itself.
Yes. And the other thing I was going to talk about, Ryan, was about the root cause of anxiety. Because I even like think about my, like, kind of talked about it. We were at church and the pastor was talking about there was a person that was going out to the river and found garbage, and they kept on scooping the garbage out. And then the next day they came and they were excited to look at the river and there was garbage again. And they're like, oh my gosh, what is happening? So they're taking the garbage out, and this kept on going. And then they're like, where is this garbage coming from? And up the river was a garbage dump, and the stuff was overflowing into the river. So where is your garbage dump in life? Where is your garbage coming from? You need to find the root cause of your anxiety. Are you doing it to yourself, or is it the people that you're surrounding yourself with? Is it the boundaries that you have not set up in place with the people in your life? You can love people and have family and friends that you've been with for a long time, and things will change when you start setting up boundaries. And that's really scary because nobody wants to lose anybody, or nobody wants to lose that job, that friend, that family member. But sometimes you need to keep the garbage in the garbage can and not let it overflow into your life. In order to do that, you need to set up the walls and the boundaries so the garbage doesn't come back onto you. People can come back into your life later on, but they need to work on themselves too. And don't be the person that keeps allowing it. Yes, I am talking on this podcast right now, but I did have years of letting the garbage flow onto me. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to anymore. I'm going to go with my intuition. So I talked about strengths of exploration. I'm going to start using my strengths and not be afraid, because it's easier to use with strangers, but I'm going to use it with the people in my life. And you know what's going to happen when you do that? Other doors, I'm going to keep saying this, are going to open. Open the doors to that gym, open the doors to that church, open the doors to new people that inspire you. I am so excited. Brian and I, the new door that we opened this week was to go to a BNI meeting. Met some amazing people that are doing the same things that we are, and that's entrepreneurship. And so, you know what, I'm excited when you come to Ryan and I and you want some coaching done or some leadership in your company or individually to yourself. We are setting ourselves up to have other resources. So if we're not meant to be with you, we're going to find someone else to connect you with. So we are starting to get our list of people that can help you in other areas of your life. So we can help you with leadership, coaching, finding your inspiration. And then you're going to be like, hey, I need somebody, we're going to go random for a water softener. Or I need a gym. I need someone to help me work out. Guess what? I'm going to get my list of people out and because I'm going to get to know them. And when I start trusting them, I can trust to give that information to you. So Ryan and I will find the information that you need. If we don't have it that day, we will get back to you. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the circle of life when it comes to, doing for others what, you can't maybe sometimes do for yourself. So those are all the pieces of it. Yeah, it was fantastic. I want to circle back to the boundaries because you just
Yeah.
reminded me about, I don't know if we haven't talked about it. I don't think for me, I'm loyal to a fault, and it's one where I had established. Did I talk about this last episode? I don't think I did. About
You'll have to talk to me and I'll see you.
in a mentor role and had a mentee that wouldn't do the work, wouldn't put the work in, wasn't going to change, wasn't taking on any recommendations to better themselves. And they're also very disrespectful in their interactions with our relationship. And it's unfortunate, it's kind of like it's not a three strikes you're out rule with this guy. I'm a two strikes, kind of thing. You get your one warning and then, you get out. And so that had to happen, and it really, I really struggled with it. I had to talk to a couple people about it and so forth. But I had someone reach out later on, and who was part of just the process and who you notify when this happens. And they commended me, I guess, for my boundaries, and I never really thought about that. How important us establishing boundaries and sticking to those boundaries and so forth. And so, for all those out there that are like me or Lisa that are people pleasers and loyal to a fault, establish that boundary and stick to it. And you know what? Send us a note and let us know about it. And we'll commend you as well for keeping to your boundaries.
Yeah, we'll help you through that. Have I, there's mistakes I've made in my life, and that was knowing when to be quiet when you're establishing boundaries too. I've opened my mouth too loud or too much. Setting up my boundaries, you can do it quietly in more patience, in a quieter voice, in a calming voice. I learned the hard way with that. Yelling at somebody or being so frustrated, like you need to take a time out before you explode on that person, because what is everyone going to do? They're going to get defensive. And you need to talk about yourself and how that hurt you, and not when you're talking to the other person, you have to say, this is what I need to in order to help myself and to help you, and not put them in so they're in a defensive mode. And some people will anyways, right? But you have to start off by not reacting in a way that there's no coming for them to come back in a positive way. So when you're journaling, I think the things to keep you in a positive mode, like it's Tuesday. So how about today I accomplished this? I had a positive experience with this person, and be like, how was that positive experience? And what did I do to be in a positive manner? And something I did for someone. This is something I've always told my kids. What have you done for someone today? And I don't care if it's simple as smiling at them or opening a door. But look at someone in the eyes today. I think, you know what? That's what I want everyone to do when we come back the following Tuesday. Like, I want you to really think, did you look at someone in the eyes when you shook their hand or you came up to the teller? Were you on your phone? Like, or when you were at Target shopping, were you on your phone and being distracted and not looking at the person that's taking the time to check you out? We all need to be more respectful You want people to be respectful back to you at your job. Well, we need to do it for the people out there, because if this continues, the way our life is going, we don't have enough workers to be waitresses, waiters, doing the cash register and all of that. And if we continue to look down or not be respectful to them, we're not going to have anybody. And those people are going to show up to work and they're not going to give a crap about you. If 10 people showed up in their lane and did not give a crap, and did not look at them, did not talk to them when they're trying to be nice to you, they're going to show up one day and they're just going to be like, you don't care, so I don't care. We all need to keep talking and practice with strangers, because then you can start practicing with your own people in your family. When they call on the phone, when you get that phone call from a family member or a friend, you're like, oh gosh, do I have to answer this? Well, don't answer it if you're not in the mood. Don't answer it if you're not ready for the questions. But if you're ready to start a new relationship or a new conversation, start directing it in a different direction, and hold people accountable. And if they're disrespectful, just say, I can't talk to you at this time. When you're ready to be more respectful, I want you to be a part of my life, but I can't start off this conversation. So there we are.
I think that about sums it up. We went from anxiety to disrespect. So, yeah,
Anxiety and disrespect can go together, because someone who is anxious can be disrespectful, and someone who is disrespectful can put anxiety into someone else. So your anxiousness is a flood into others people and giving them anxiety.
no, I was saying it was perfect. It certainly does. It's the garbage dump of both sides of it.
So remember to look at people. I'm going to send you off. Look for the good in people. And again, none of us want to hurt each other or take each other for granted. And if someone tells you how they're feeling, learn your lesson. Don't do it again. And keep learning, keep growing. And Jesus loves you.
So make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Go to lisasander.com if you want to get on Lisa's calendar. Head to ourprotectordevelopment.com if you want to get on my calendar. And we look forward to seeing you guys or talking to you next week on Tuesday. So love you.
Be positive, everybody. Have an amazing week. Be that person that people want to work next to. See you next Tuesday.